Liz Henderson, welcome to the Data Strategy Show. Great to see you, Liz. How are you doing?
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. It's a delight to be able to talk to your audience.
Yeah, fantastic. It's been a really good series so far. So I'm really happy about the series. But look, thank you for coming on. You know that this series is focusing on women, and it's focusing on their experiences, specifically women in data and women in tech. And really it's about their journey and what they've seen, and whether, and I think this is a big learning journey for me as well, in the sense that if we go back to the 70s, women were marginalized. Yeah, absolutely. There was a bigger disparity than there is now. But as we're starting to get into the 2025s, and where are we now? And that's what I really want to understand. And what challenges are there? What still exists there? What biases are still around? But before that, it would be great just to get some background about you, so that our audience knows who Liz is.
Thank you. And to shine a light on such a critical topic and to have another male advocate for the female leadership world is amazing. So thank you for doing this.
Well, that's a pleasure.
So well, I fell into the data world like many other data leaders, because the data world as a career didn't exist when we started work. But before that, if I look back at what I did when I was 10 at school, I used to Skype lessons, but with approval, to program games. So I was there sitting in the foyer on my massive computer that was green screen, writing games. I loved it.
Incredible.
I probably lost out by not doing the maths and the English that I should have done. But I had a massive opportunity, and the school understood that, and they let me do it.
That's really great.
Yeah, it was. They were very supportive. The problem was I fell out of love with programming. The programming in those days changed over the next couple of years, and I just fell out of love with it, so I didn't continue. However, I do keep my hand in. I recently refurbished my own website, and I did a bit of programming on that to make sure I could get the functionality I wanted. So I could do a bit.
Yeah, you can still do it. Yeah.
But I think that just set me up for a data career. And my career has been very number focused. I did accountancy. I don't know. I liked accountancy when I did it at college. I understood it. It came pretty easy to me. But my God, it was boring after a few years. Every month doing the same thing. I'm sorry to all those accountants out there if I've now offended. But the month after month, spending hours, even days, where's that penny gone? Searching for that one penny. Your variance goes up and goes down. It's like, after getting part qualified. Exactly. So I went in a completely different direction. I became a relief manager for Ansell's Brewery.
What's a relief manager?
So when managers go on holiday for their 2 weeks in the Caribbean or wherever they go to, because in those days pubs were making a lot of money. I'd go into their pub and run it for a couple of weeks.
I see. Okay. Wow.
Absolutely love that. And to get that experience at a reasonably young age of running a business. You were running businesses, what in today's figures would be £500,000 to £1 million. If pubs were still as successful. And it was great. I absolutely loved managing the stock, the people, the customers. I learned a lot of lessons.
Yeah, of course.
I did some very silly things for customer service, which I very quickly learnt how to keep my regulars happy. And I'm also very proud to say I got the Burton Brewers Award for real ale, because I took a liking to brewing real ale and looking after it in the cellar. I love the cellar management side of it.
Oh my goodness. So wow, so many sides to you already.
Absolutely. And in any career, I think you've just got to learn that it goes in different directions, and you get so much from it. Because being a relief manager for a couple of years, I ended up drinking quite a lot, working 24/7.
And then you spit my coffee out.
Sorry about that. You can't continue that life for too long without killing yourself.
No.
So I decided to use my number focused skills and go into analytics in retail. And because I got that
how did you jump? So how did you jump from running a pub and saying, "Oh, I want to do analytics," because that's a really bizarre. There must have been like some kind of segue or
Yeah.
something happened that made you realize some pivot. Just not like I'll get up tomorrow morning and I say, I'm going to do analytics. Great, yeah, whoa, let's do it.
The numbers side, because of my accountancy background, because I could do the takings and the stock.
Yeah.
And juggle the staff around, because I was so organized,
Yeah.
all that numbers side of it, I knew that was where my experience and my expertise was. And there was an opportunity to join one of the no longer in existence now, shoe retailers, one of the major fashion brands.
Yeah.
And the stock controller said, "You've got fantastic analytical skills from your pub management days and your accountancy. I want to bring you in." So I was really lucky that he recognised that. And I think your career is down to luck to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that. And then that just led on to my data career.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's interesting. That's crazy. So from being a programmer to then not liking it, to running pubs, to then sort of waking up and saying, I want to do analytics. Okay, you've got a numbers background, but still, it's interesting because what you said at the beginning, we all fall into data. It's so funny. I did the same thing. I fell into data, and I didn't, and it was just, oh, what's this thing? So it's interesting that you say, even though I did programming and so on, I was always a bit iffy with numbers. It was always something, that I looked at and I thought, oh gosh, numbers again. But when I did the programming, it was like, oh, okay, now I get the logic. But why was I so scared of numbers? It's bizarre until you actually start to realize how it helps something, or how it helps an organization. But anyway, it's not about me. So right, so you've had that interesting journey, and in that journey and sort of, through that cycle of learning, what have you learned about the way that women are positioned in these roles? And how have you gone through that process of just gone through that process of understanding or sort of identifying where there are biases or where there are things that, are untypical of how, males experience the workplace?
I think one of my biggest lessons for leadership was earlier on, because I think we're better at it now. But in those days, we didn't support people when we told them they were going to manage a team. So I'd probably managed a handful of people, but then I was told, you can manage this team.
Right.
I was super excited. I couldn't believe how amazing. Yeah, it was one of those. But the reality never kicked in of, do I actually know what I'm doing? Because nobody told me, nobody helped me, nobody supported me. And I messed up big style to the point where half my team actually went to HR and complained about me.
Oh, wow.
But I needed that kind of moment. Okay, you need to do something better. But then it kicked the business into touch to say, we need to help her.
Right.
And the business were amazing then.
Yeah.
And the female male disparity didn't come into it. The company were really supportive.
Yeah.
My manager was supportive. I changed manager at that point, and they were really supportive. And I learned people were different. And then I set myself the ambition to be wanting to be one of those managers that I could be proud that people want to follow me, want to work with me.
Yeah.
It took time. It took a huge amount of effort. But I achieved that a few years ago. And I am so proud to go on that journey from being such a crap manager to now having people that will drop anything and do anything for me. That is such a privilege.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely true. So they recognized that you needed help, you need coaching, you needed some, training or whatever it might have been. Because you look back on your career and a lot of it is, stumbling through things and trying to work it out yourself. So I think, for me, it's really understanding where one of the things that keeps coming up is confidence. And we talked about this a little bit before we started, but confidence in saying yes and confidence in being able to get up on a stage and talk about something without understanding the content 150%, for example. How do you get through that? And how, because I know a lot of other women have said, if somebody says to me, oh yeah, we need you to get up on stage and present something. A lot of them have said, but that we sort of stand back and say, oh no, I can't do that. I'm not ready. So how do you battle that?
It's an interesting concept. I was on a leadership call, not a leadership, well, a female networking call, maybe a few years ago. And one of the questions that came to me was, have you always been confident? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I didn't present until I was in my early 30s, and they sent me on a training course. And I remember the first time I had to do a presentation. I didn't know what to do. I was like, why would anybody listen to me? What should I present? I'm just a nobody.
Yeah.
I stood behind a table teaching the group how to make cakes. We ate them all, so there was a positive.
Yeah.
But my legs were shaking so much.
Oh my goodness.
I had to hold onto the table because I physically thought I was going to fall over. I was so scared.
Yeah.
But I knew how to make cakes, so I thought, I know the topic.
You were comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because it goes back to when I was at school. When I was 13, there was a trip to Alton Towers. And we were a class that had been together for the 3 years at high school. And they all went to Alton Towers except me. I said, no, I can't cope with the coach trip. I'll be motion sickness. I can't cope with roller coasters. I'm scared. I don't want to go. I thought of every excuse in the world why I shouldn't go.
Yeah.
That's the turning point for me. The team, I say the team, the class came back. My mates, who I still am friends with, some of them now, came back and had such a wonderful day. And I knew at that point, in today's day, it's FOMO, isn't it? Fear of missing out.
Yeah, of course.
I missed out on such an amazing experience, which is why I always say yes to everything.
Right.
Because you can change your mind.
Yeah,
that was absolutely the catalyst. Because if you say no, it's you've lost the opportunity. Another example is working in the Netherlands. This is about 12, 13 years ago. I got an opportunity to work in the Netherlands. And I thought, oh my God, flying every week, that's going to be horrendous. I'm going to hate it. I don't like leaving home. I prefer to work in the office. I thought, no, if I never say yes, I will never experience that. Right. It was only 5 weeks. I thought I can cope with 5 weeks. It ended up being over a year, and I loved every minute of it. So again, another example of say yes, then worry about it, because you can always say no later on, but you can never backtrack if you say no to start with.
But this is about comfort zone as well, isn't it? This is about confidence and,
yes and no. I push myself out my comfort zone when I say yes to these things.
Yeah, well, of course you did, but initially you stood there and said, "Oh, do I really want to go and get on a plane every week and live in a different?" So it's almost like confidence with a little bit of, am I now getting out of my depth, or am I not going to be comfortable sort of in a new environment? So I think there's that as well. But so your 13-year-old self sort of, realized that I have to say yes to everything. How has that treated you since then?
Sometimes I
asked the question because somebody's going to be listening to this who's clearly says no to everything, and suddenly they say yes to everything, and then they're like, oh my God. So how did you, what's the methodology? What's your approach to saying, yes, I'm going to do it, and then suddenly, do you go away and panic and go, oh my God, I've just said yes?
That's exactly what I do. I go, oh my God, what have I just said yes to? And then I look at my diary and think, how am I going to fit that in? What am I going to do? I'm a really organized person, so I will make a list of all the events, of all the topics, all the things I've committed to. Okay, how do I do that? Right, okay. This weekend, I'm going to have to commit to that. I'm not going to have to go to the gym, or I have to give things up to be able to do these things.
Sure.
But if I look at what I've achieved over, 12, 15 years, I've been doing this kind of public side of me. Opportunities only come from other opportunities.
Yes.
People will contact me. I'm writing a book. I've had a publisher contact me through my own website and say, we'd like to publish your book. I'm like, wow. But it all comes from saying yes to things. It's almost like, I don't know whether it's fate. I don't know whether anybody believes in fate.
Yes. Yeah.
But the door's open for you.
Yeah.
So yes, it's scary. What I would say is, okay, say yes to something and then assess, what do I need to do? You almost go back from, I've said yes to doing X on this date. What do I need to do? Play it backwards.
Yeah.
In time and in activities that you need to do. Is that now realistic that I've said yes to that? Or do I need to push it out? Or do I need to ask for expenses to be paid? Or have I got a childcare problem that I need to manage? Okay, I've got 3 months to sort that out. Is it realistic to sort that out? Or do I now have to go back and say, I'm really sorry, something's come up? So, but giving yourself that yes to start with gives you that time to think about it in a very logical way.
Right.
And if you're not a logical person, which everybody isn't, speak to somebody. You've got friends, mentors, people around you. Even give me a shout. I'm known for giving my pragmatic, non-emotional advice to my friends. They all come to me and say, right, I've got an emotional challenge. Can you assess it with your non-emotional brain and tell me what I need to do?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think that's good, because while you're still giving yourself the space to still query what you've said yes to, and you're still able to go back and ask questions and determine whether you need to make it the way that you want it.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing essentially, aren't you?
Yeah. So everything in life is negotiable.
Yes.
That's what I was taught.
Exactly. So, and I think that's where I've found, even my experiences with inviting, a lot of women initially when I started season 1, I went out to a ton of women saying, please, would you come on the show? It would be really great to have you on. Probably about 3% of them said yes. And I went out to, about 50. So it's really interesting to see the differences, because I would go to men and they, I'm coming on. I'm on.
Yeah.
And so even in this season, trying to get sort of, women to come onto the show has been interesting. It hasn't been easy. It's not something that I still think is the same as when I go, as I said, when I ask, a man to come onto the show, they're like, yeah, sure, whenever you want. So is there something behind that in terms of, what would your view be on that? Because I'm really interested to understand. I mean, either I could just say it's me,
It's certainly not you, for sure. You're lovely and you've been amazing. So yeah, I think it goes back to how women are brought up. The boys are loud in the playground, the girls are quiet, standing in groups. And until we crack that and bring children up in a different way, we're never going to act differently, because women don't and I'm generalizing with these comments. So if I'm offending anybody, I apologize. That's not my intention. So it's easy to generalize when you're just making these comparisons.
Sure.
Women don't self-promote.
Yeah.
The word just comes into every woman's conversation. Oh, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing this.
Okay, that's interesting.
I was having a call with somebody the other day and they were asking me about something. I says, oh, I've just done that. And she looked at me. I said, yes, I know I shouldn't say just. Because
I'm going to start here. I'm going to start listening out for that now.
It is a really bad word to use. You never hear men say that. Men are always very vocal about what they do. And a comparison came up recently. So as part of our work that we do within the organisation I work in, we write down what we're doing, whether that's a weekly basis, monthly basis, depends on the cadence you need to complete the information in. And I just happened to be looking through my team's reports, and one of the male team members had write this massive long list. I was like, okay, but I know I was part of at least 50% of that, and they were just conversations.
Right.
Why have you got all that stuff on there? Because if I was writing, I wouldn't have even included half of that stuff.
Of course.
And then, so I'd got my own internal view, and then I looked at a female list, and that was really tiny. And I rang the male colleague up and said, why have you done all these things? He says, but I'm having an impact. I'm doing something. I'm involved. I'm part of this. And I thought, okay. I explained to him what the female had done and what I would have done. And he says, that's fascinating. And we had a long conversation about why we do that and why the differences are.
Yeah.
And I took the lesson away from that I need to be listing more things.
Right.
I actually brought that female into that conversation.
Yeah.
And I let the male and that female go off and have a conversation. She's now completely enlightened to, it's not, I'm just doing my job.
Yes.
Because she put the 2 or 3 things she did.
Yeah.
The rest of it was, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah.
So I don't need to write anything down.
Sure.
And that male colleague now is a complete advocate. He's out there now talking to women in his team, in his wider team as well, to say, can I help you? Can I help you promote what you're doing, help understand where you can write more information about what you're achieving, and most importantly, the impact you're having, because that's really key. So when we now do one-to-ones, we ask our team members not what they've achieved, but what impact they've had.
Right. Yeah.
And that turns the conversation around completely.
That's a really interesting way, and actually a really interesting story to sort of look at it through that lens, and how your initial focus on the long list of things and like, why did he do that in a short list? And then suddenly actually, you came back and thought, there are learnings from this, what he's done. Yeah. And we can take those learnings into, helping other people, and specifically helping women to sort of think in a very maybe different way, and not using that word just. And now I'm very conscious of that word just, which is the first, but I've never heard anybody say that before. So that's really interesting. In the current climate, and just listening to that, where women still are either reserved or not willing to shout from the rooftops, as men do, it's absolutely true. Not everyone, not every man, but what differences need to be made in the way that we work and in the way that we interact with each other? I'm just, you've gone through quite an interesting career, which is, which is not linear in the way that a data person has gone through programming and, being an architect, etc. So what do you use from your learnings to bring that into how females or how women in the workplace are buoyed and, sort of getting their voice out there? What do you do to help that?
There is so much bias. I'll start with the negatives, because I've heard stories about managers saying everybody in my team doubles their sales, so I always half them and never believe what they say. Right. But then when a female is honest and open, I made X sales this year, that manager is going to halve that. So the female is disadvantaged immediately. Right. Because of what the manager is expecting.
I see.
There's also I've had a story from somebody actually in one of our data networks who shared with me, she was in a meeting with a group of people, which included one of her manager, and she raised a point. Her voice was lost. Nobody paid any attention. The conversation carried on after she made the point. She then took the opportunity to write that note in chat, which is a really positive about virtual meetings.
Yep.
Her manager then raised that topic later on with her and said, because somebody else in the meeting, it was a one-to-one chat, it wasn't the team chat. A male person in that meeting then raised the same topic.
Oh, I see.
Her manager then picked up with this female afterwards and said, I'm really sorry that I didn't hear you when you first mentioned it, but Fred mentioned it and everybody was really positive. I now know that your voice is not being heard. I will do better next time to support you and really make sure you're voice, your comments, your thoughts are supported within meetings because you clearly know your stuff. So it's tough for women. I am really lucky. I've got a lot of male advocates who will either see my hand up or, if I've not said anything for a while, let's listen to Liz, see what Liz has got to say. She's usually got some good points to share. And I want to say a great shout out to all those male advocates out there. And there are many that support women and are advocates for women, because we need more.
Yeah. And so those negatives, and, you know, that's the sort of, some of the other people I've spoken to haven't given me such negatives as in, you know, these sort of examples. So I'm glad you've done that. What do we need to do with that? What do we need to, you know, how do we need to get over these negatives and these biases, and you know, support everybody? Not I mean, I get it. Even other people will have, there'll be different biases, you know, with not just women, but with, you know, different people of color and so on. There will be all of those things, and I completely understand that, being, you know, from an Indian background. But what do we need to do in the workplace to help? And of course, I'm focusing on women, to help women feel more comfortable, be more adventurous. I'm not saying they're not, and, you know, but just from our conversation, saying yes more, and being able just to stand for themselves, you know, in a way which, again, I know things have progressed since the 70s, but it's just, where are things still stuck, and what do we need to do about that?
Yeah, although the pay gap is still diminishing, the bonus gap is now being focused on, because the bonus gap is getting bigger. So we're not giving women the right level of bonuses in comparison to our male colleagues. But anyway, that's a whole new can of worms we can go into.
Oh wow.
But behaviors. The problem is the disparity in leadership behaviors. Harvard, I was reading some research on the Harvard Business Review. It says women are highly rated in 12 out of the 16 leadership competences, yet women are still underrepresented in senior leadership, which we know.
Yeah.
Male leaders, if they're dominant, assertive, it's accepted. That's normal.
Yeah.
But when women are like that, particularly in industries that are not a high percentage of women, it's negatively perceived because it's abnormal. A few years ago, I was in a meeting and there was probably about 10 guys and 3 women. The 3 of the senior men were pacing around the room, showing their dominance.
All right.
You could really see that. You could really see the balance of kind of, well, I'm not sitting down if he's not sitting down. Now, if a woman had paced around the room, she would have just been told, sit down.
Sit down.
So it's that acceptance of behaviours, but it's definitely industry and sector specific, because if you go to the legal industry or the legal sector, having a strong, assertive, domineering female lawyer, my God, that is what is absolutely needed. That is respected. Even some of the male lawyers that I know say the women are scary.
Right.
But he says we give them absolute respect because that's what they have to do in their job. So I think as an industry, data and tech, we need to somehow, and I don't know the answer to this, normalize women being assertive, domineering, being driven, having a voice. And I don't want to say we need all the men to accept that, because the role of a woman has got to, there's something there for the woman to do as well. But I just don't know the answer. I don't know how we do this. Because I've heard people say, oh, you scare the boys. I mean, if a man says that to a woman, that is appalling. I honestly don't know the answer. Hopefully somebody out there listening to this has an answer.
And I you know, I think it's interesting that you talk about the behaviors, which absolutely. And, you know, the pay gap and disparity between that, and I think it's still, as you know, if you look, I think there's a stat, 35% of women, you know, in the boardroom. I think it's about 35% now in the sort of boardroom. That's the, you know,
something like that.
But interesting enough, yesterday I was looking at some stats, and some of the stats in coming from women in STEM degrees, interesting enough, if I look at computer sciences or in engineering and technology, it's only 19% of the student intake are females.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was much higher than that, because I thought there was quite a lot of females coming into the industry.
Yeah, and that's what I really was and this is a recent data from UCAS and HESA. So it's STEMwomen.com. And so in the physical sciences and mathematical sciences, you have a larger proportion. So it's 39% and 37% reflective. But in computer sciences and engineering and technology, it's 19%. Yeah. So there seems to be a weird disparity within and that imbalance in tech and engineering, which obviously then will, computer sciences is very much data as well. So but in the sciences, because maybe it's more research driven and so on, there's a higher percentage of women. So and then we talk about STEM and so on. So that I think is really interesting. And maybe there are some other more stats out there that give us, but again, this is from women in STEM and degrees in the UK. So it's interesting for me to see that lower level of intake and that imbalance. Do you see, you're in the data world out there, you work for a consultancy. When I go in and work with clients, and right now I'm doing some work in an insurance company, I'm seeing, actually in this insurance company, I'm seeing more men than I'm seeing women, which it's a small insurance company, so it's not massive. But what's your take? Where, in consulting, are you seeing more women coming up in the ranks, or is it still sort of a lack of?
I think over the years, I've been in consulting for about 15 plus years. It does struggle with women,
right?
Because of the consulting way of life. In those days when I first joined, it was being away from home.
Yeah.
And it was less appropriate for women for various reasons than it was for men. I'm actually seeing quite a lot of women come in. Coding for girls is bringing a lot of ex-teachers and people that have had careers.
Okay.
Females rejoining the workforce, which seems to be really successful.
Oh, fantastic.
And I know there's a lot of effort about bringing women back after they've had time off to have children and supporting that. So I think we probably need to do some more around that, because these women that come in after they've had a career or after they've had children, they're amazing women. They've learned so many skills, life skills, and managing things around what they've done prior to consulting. And they just are brilliant people with brilliant skills. And I would support more of that.
Right.
I was reading an article from Julie Sweet, the CEO of Accenture.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was only 5% of companies in the Fortune 500 led by women, which is appalling.
Yeah.
But she's got a cartoon on her library wall that says, well, it's a young girl who interrupts her father. So her father's reading her a bedtime story, and this young girl interrupts the father and says, skip to the part where the princess climbs to the top of the corporate ladder. And the father looks at the child, what are you talking about? But Julie sends this to all her female peers who become CEOs as like an amazing achievement.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fantastic cartoon. And maybe we need to emphasize that. There must be something we can do as a data community, maybe even Big Data London, to get more women involved, bring in younger, maybe even there's something connecting with STEM that we could do.
Yes. Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah. And connecting with schools, and then, connecting with because that's where the education piece starts, doesn't it?
Indeed.
My last question to you is, for those women who are looking ahead at a career in data analytics, and now obviously AI, which is, the prevalent area that everybody's talking about, what are the 3 things that you would suggest for them to think about, to, as they're starting their careers, what they should do to ensure, or at least get that sort of growth and confidence in what they want to achieve?
I think put the confidence thing aside, because you'll never know everything. And the problem with confidence is you want to know everything, and because you feel like you don't have the confidence. So you have to put that to one side. I want X. And the challenge with data careers is they often say, oh, it's analytics or it's science or engineering. It's not. There's such a broad variety of career paths within the data industry. So I think whatever you're good at, whether it's partnering with people, having those people skills, or being more analytical, explore the data industry. Look for people on LinkedIn who are doing something in data who maybe can have a chat with you. I'm a STEM ambassador, and I often chat with groups of school classes and schools, which I find is good fun. Find somebody who can be your mentor, your sounding board. If you're in your early career and you want to change it, or you want to continue your career but do it in a different direction, find a mentor who can you bounce some ideas from about what options are available, what skills they would need. Just jump in feet first. Honestly, don't worry about the confidence. If we worried about everything, we'd never do anything. We'd never get out of bed. So my final point is grab it with both hands and just go for it.
Great. Liz, that's a great ending. Grab it with both hands and go for it. Thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us all of those insights and your experience, which has been fantastic.
You're welcome. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Take care.
Thank you so much.